All right, fig lovers, this is Ross the Fig Boss. Today we're looking at some of the grafted fig trees that I grafted this spring. We're also going to look at some of the grafted fig trees I have that are much older. We're going to talk about some of the reasons why you might want to graft a fig tree, why you might not want to graft a fig tree. Tonight, actually, we have a tornado warning here in the Philadelphia area. We have a storm coming in. It is early to mid-August, and I thought, you know what, let's go around and look at all the grafted fig trees, evaluate them, how they did this spring, and also protect them. You can see the winds blowing there on that tree. If the wind's too heavy, and you guys have a lot of wind where you are, the graft unions, especially when they're young, can snap. So I got myself some green stretch tape. This you can find just in the description of the video in my Amazon storefront. This is stuff I use and buy every year. It's quite stretchy, so it doesn't girdle the branches, and I just like to secure my grafts, the graft union itself, to a stake. Then I tie it a little bit higher than that, and then I tie it again a little bit higher than that. And now we have about a foot worth of length of this graft and the Scion that's coming from, the new growth that's coming from the Scion, secured to a stake. And so this will be fine. Even in really high winds, we won't really have a problem. Very soon, actually, with this tree, I'm going to be removing the tip, the apical bud, and that will form the scaffolds. And this will really start to strengthen up. The lower part of the tree, below the graft, the rootstock, will start to thicken. We'll form the scaffolds up here, and everything will kind of really just grow really well together. And next year, we'll have a really successful fig tree. So this is a Vertolino graft that I did. This is one of the trees. It was in a 2-gallon size pot. I like to grow them out in a 2-gallon size, by the way. Before we graft them, it's really only one bud you can see there that we grafted. And you can see that green stretch tape that is attached to the stake. We've got some others here, and this is kind of the reason why I would recommend grafting. As you'll see on this tree, we have a rootstock down there, and there's 2 branches that come out. This is in a 7-gallon size pot, and I grafted 2 different varieties onto this tree. So that way you have what's called, I guess, a Frankenfig is one way of putting it. There's one graft union. We have actually a shoot coming here from the Scion and a shoot up here on the Scion. Then there's the other one. So 2 different varieties, and this is just kind of hedging my bets a little bit. I don't necessarily love having 2 figs, 2 different varieties on one tree, one rootstock. It's hard to manage sometimes. Some of the trees and the varieties are more vigorous than others, and that can be difficult. You know, one variety here, like this one is Black Celeste, is kind of outshining this other variety here on the other side of the tree. Nonetheless, you can see here we actually topped it, and that's the beauty of grafting, is that in a very short amount of time you can get fruit. So we grafted this just like early to mid-May. Now we're in early to mid-August. 3 months later, we got fruits forming. And these fruits will probably ripen by the end of the season. I might get lucky. And that's the nice benefit there. Here's another graft union we did. This one seems to be a little further ahead than the others. You got fruit that's further in development, and the scaffolds have already been forming. After we pinch this, we've got 4 scaffolds forming. That's perfect. We've got some that are much further behind. You can see one down here that's actually not very healthy. A lot of fig mosaic virus coming from the Scion. So we need a healthy Scion and we need a healthy rootstock. That's critical for this. And then here's another one here that's a little bit further behind the others, but I still like where it's at, and we'll have good success with it next season. Now let's look at some of the other trees I have that are a bit more mature in containers that were grafted. And I guess I gave you a couple reasons there. You get fruit that's earlier of why we would graft. So you get fruit that's a little bit early. Here's another grafted tree. And then you also can have multiple varieties on the same tree. But why wouldn't you actually do some grafting? And I think the reason for that is if you're going to be planting this in the ground. Now, if you live in a colder place, that's a zone 7, 6, 5, you wouldn't want to graft a fig tree and then plant it here in the ground. You just will not have success. It's not going to be hardy enough. That graft union will probably take damage, the Scion will take damage, or the rootstock will take damage, and then you'll have pretty much nothing. Your efforts will go to waste. So if you're in a zone 8, you could probably get away with it with hardier varieties, but it may also be a risk in certain places in zone 8s, especially colder zone 8s. But in zone, warmer zone 8s and 9 and 10, this can be really great for a lot of you guys out there. It's kind of easier to maintain, I find. You only need one tree this way, versus having lots of fig trees. You can just have one fig tree, plant that in the ground, and then graft a number of different varieties onto it, similar to how you would treat other fruit trees, just in the same exact way. Instead of having 2 varieties, let's say, or one tree, let's say, and only one variety, well, you're still going to need a pollinator, right? Or 2 varieties to cross-pollinate, but the fig doesn't need that. However, it's nice because if you have something like plums and pluots and apricots that we're looking at here in front of me, these trees will ripen at different times. Different varieties ripen at different times. They also taste different. You get different qualities of the fruit, different amounts of fiber, health benefits, etc. So if you guys have 2 different fig varieties or multiple fig varieties grafted on the same tree, there's definitely a benefit, even though that cross-pollination is not the real reason why you would do it. So that is grafting fig trees a little bit there on that, guys. I hope that this helps you make your decision as to whether or not you'd want to do something like this. It can be a great rewarding experience, even just learning the process of grafting. Check out my blog, guys, figboss.com. Hit the subscribe button for me. Hit that like button. Catch you guys for the next video. Take care.